Good evening and welcome to another class. For the past weeks, we've been discussing various activities with respect to crop production. We started the class by introducing us to um, biotic and abiotic factors that can affect crop production. We moved over. So our last class, we talked about pests and common disease that can affect your crop production. So we discussed various diseases in our last class. We talked about various disease. We talked about fungi disease, bacterial disease. We also talked about viral disease that can affect your crop production. That is with respect to biotic factors. So today we are moving to another topic. We'll be talking on soil fertility and management. Understanding and managing soil fertility for optimal crop production. First of all, if we are going into production, we are doing crop production, we need to consider that the first foundation is your soil. If you are doing soil farming, you are not using soilless medium. The first foundation is your soil. If your soil is having issues, there is no way you will get maximum productivity from that very production. So it is very important for us to have a good and robust soil fertility management. That is why we are discussing this topic today. So now, what is soil fertility? We need to understand that soil fertility refers to the ability for the soil to provide essential nutrients, water and other necessary components to support growth and productivity of plants. Now, let's observe there are some key statements here. Essential nutrients, water and other necessary components to support growth and productivity of plant. So your soil need to be able to provide the essential nutrients, the essential nutrient that it needs for growing. Your soil need to be able to provide nitrogen, it needs to be able to provide phosphorus, it needs to be able to provide potassium and other macro or micronutrients. It needs to be able to provide water too, because if your soil cannot provide water for your plant, at the end of the day the plant will not be able to absorb the water and it will lead to crop production failure. So it encompasses the physical, chemical and biological properties of the soil that will enable the plant to have good yield. So soil fertility is more of like an holistic measures or holistic broad term that has to do with both the physical, the chemical and the biological properties of the soil. Now, types of soil fertility. We have two types of soil fertility. We have inherent or natural fertility, then we have acquired fertility. Now, for inherent or natural fertility, these are soil that they are fertile naturally. That is as a result of maybe they've not farmed in that land before, maybe some people call it virgin land. Maybe they've not done anything on that land before and a lot of organic matter have decomposed in that soil. So at the end of the day, you discover that this particular soil, they have inherent or natural fertility. That is, they are fertile naturally. While we have acquired fertility. So acquired fertility is when you work on the soil. For example, you discover that this soil is not fertile enough. This is when you add maybe compost, you start adding manure, you start adding other agents to make the soil fertile. That is what we call acquired fertility. Now, what are the key factors of soil fertility? Now, there are some factors we need to consider for us to know that this soil is fertile. Number one is nutrient availability. Number two is soil pH. Number three is organic matter. Four, microbial activity and the soil structure. So these are very important factors that has to do with soil fertility. If, for example, there is no nutrient in the soil that you are using for growing, at the end of the day, the plant will have nutrient deficiency. And when a plant start having nutrient deficiency, you will not be able to get the maximum productivity that you need from that particular plant. Now, soil pH. Soil pH, it has to do with the acidity or the alkalinity of the soil. Now, we should understand that there are some soil that are acidic in nature, and there are some soil that are what alkaline in nature. If you refer back to our discussion where we were discussing abiotic and biotic factors, we discuss extensively on soil pH. So we have acidic soil and we have alkaline soil, and there are some plants that are acidic. They love acidic soils, while some they like alkaline. But it's better you have your soil pH fall within a range, let's say 5.5 to, let's say, 6.5. If your soil fall within that range, it is going to do well. Every plant, every nutrient will be available at that particular soil pH, because if the pH is having issues, if the pH is too high, there are some nutrients that your plant will not be able to absorb, or the soil will not be able to give out those nutrients. Organic matter has to do with, let's say, dead debris, leaves, those things that die and they decompose and they form matter for the soil that gives it nutrient. Microbial activity has to do with microorganisms in the soil, while the soil structure has to do with the general structure of the soil. Now, factors affecting soil fertility. Now, we need to understand that for your soil to be fertile, there are some factors that may likely affect it. Number one is climate. Climate is very important because the climatic condition of a particular place will determine if that soil will be fertile or not. Parent material. Now, remember that we have different types of soil. We have loamy soil, we have sandy soil, we have clay soil also. So the type of soil matters a lot. Topography of the land. Now, if, for example, you have a slopy land, it is going to affect the soil fertility, because most times when there is water, when there is erosion, it will wash away the nutrient, and you discover that there are some places in that particular area that lacks nutrient. So the topography of the area, or the topography of the area you are growing, it matters a lot. Land use and management. Now, if, for example, you use this land consis ten tly, you are using the land over and over and over and over again without replenishing the soil, you will discover that that particular soil, or that particular soil in that land area, they will lack nutrient because you have exhausted the nutrient inside the soil. Now, what are the importance of soil fertility? Now, when your soil is fertile, you have good crop yield, and when you have good crop yield, it will lead to food security, because when you have good crop yield, that is when there will be enough food, there will be enough you have enough harvest to fight against food scarcity. Then ecosystem health. If your soil is fertile, the entire ecosystem will be okay. Every microorganism, they will be able to go through the normal system. The ones that need to decompose, they will decompose. The one that needs to move around, they can move around. Then climate change too is an important factor of soil fertility. Now, what are the essential nutrients? We've discussed nutrients. That was when we did integrated nutrient management. So you can go to our YouTube channel and watch integrated nutrient management. That is when we discuss extensively on each of these nutrients and what each of these nutrients do. So, but we have and macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are the nutrients that are needed in large quantity, while micronutrients are the ones that are needed in small quantity. So example of our macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, what we normally call NPK. While for micronutrients, we have boron, we have copper, iron, manganese and zinc. These Dis nutrient, they are most times available in the soil. They are most times available in the soil, but they are very in quantity when they are available in the soil. Now, strategies for managing soil fertility. Now, for your soil to continue to be fertile, there are some strategies you need to do. There are some strategies you need to put in place for you to have good soil fertility. Number one is soil testing and analysis. It is very important you do soil test and analysis so that you know the nutrients that your soil is lacking. Then you know that, oh, if my soil is lacking this nutrient, that is, I will have to increase this particular nutrient, and I have to add this particular nutrient so that my plant will not be deficient of that nutrient. Another thing with soil testing, when you do soil testing, you will be able to know the pH of the soil. You will be able to know either for you to adjust the pH, either for you to increase the pH or you reduce the pH. Another strategy for managing soil fertility is organic amendment. That is using of compost, using of manure. You can use manure to amend the soil. For example, let's say you test the soil and you discover that it is lacking nutrient, you can use organic amendment for it. Crop rotation and intercropping. Now, there are some crop that normally they will provide some particular nutrient. Let's say for example beans. For example, if you plant beans, is capable of absorbing atmospheric nitrogen and using it to amend the soil. So you discover that when you are done planting beans, that soil, that place you plant your beans will be rich in nitrogen, because that is beans have that ability. That is why it is important for you to do crop rotation. That is, you rotate your crop, you plant different crop, because there are some crops that are heavy feeders, while there are some crops that will amend the soil. Also, you can manage your soil fertility by fertilizer application, either soluble fertilizer or granular fertilizer. So, soil fertility versus soil productivity. Now, soil fertility and soil productivity, they are two different terms entirely. They are two different terms. So, like we discussed, soil fertility is the ability for the soil to be able to provide nutrient, water, and others for the plant. While soil productivity is the ability for the soil to support plant growth and produce good yield. So your soil can be fertile and it may not be productive. Now, how can that happen? Let's say for example you have a fertile soil and there is drought, there is no enough water. If there is no enough water, the plant will not be able to absorb it, and at the end of the day that particular soil cannot be productive because the plant cannot utilize the available resources in that soil. So it is very important to know that soil fertility is different from soil productivity. If for example your soil is fertile and there is water log, at the end of the day that soil will not still be productive, because the ability for your soil to be productive is the yield that you get from that particular soil. That is what we use to judge the productivity of the soil. So how to measure soil fertility? How to measure soil fertility? Now, the best method to evaluate the overall quality of the soil and its productivity is to do soil testing. So soil testing is the best way for you to measure your soil fertility, because through soil testing you will be able to get the right data, the right amount of nutrients that your soil has. And you can do soil fertility by going to a test laboratory. Although of recent there are some pH meter, handheld pH meter that you can use, but if you have the money you can go to lab and do a holistic test so that you see everything. Now, why is soil fertility test important? Soil fertility test reviews the deficiency in the soil, and it helps the farmer to know what element is missing from the soil, like I said earlier. So it's more of like a reviewer. It opens your eye that to know that my soil is lacking nitrogen so I will need to supply more nitrogen. I need to give urea. My soil is lacking potassium and this particular plant I am planting, this particular crop I am growing, it needs more of potassium. So therefore, I will apply what? More potassium. Now another thing is soil fertility test helps to know what crop that particular soil is suited for. Now if you test your soil fertility, that is you test the pH, you know the pH of the soil, you know every other thing, it help you to know that this particular soil um I can plant acid loving plant. I can plant acid loving plant. So I can plant alkaline loving plant. I can plant this particular plant because I have known what the history and what the soil contains. So this is an example of a lab where they are testing the soil. Now one of the things that can lead to your soil losing fertility is using of fertilizers without regard. Now a lot of farmers, especially newbies in farming, they don't really understand what fertilizer is. What they do is once they plant, they will just go to some agro shop and the person will tell them buy urea, buy urea. They will go and apply urea to the plant, and meanwhile the plant do not even need urea at that particular point. Some of them, they will apply urea until the plant even get to flowering stage and start fruiting. And if you can go back to when we were discussing nutrient management, when there is too much nitrogen, as a result of too much nitrogen can inhibit or stop potassium from getting to your plant, and potassium is necessary for fruiting plant. So when you use urea too much, at the end of the day you start having abortion, flower abortion. You start having a lot of leaves, you will having big lushy leaves but you will not see fruit. And let's say for example you are growing something like tomato, you are growing something like pepper, you don't need leaf, it is the fruit that you need. So if you use fertilizers without proper consultation, at the end of the day you will not get good result. Unsuitable cropping system, continuous cultivation of the land. Now let's say you continue cultivating on a particular land, you are not amending the soil, you plant, you terminate, then you replant again, you don't give the soil any nutrient, you do not amend the soil. At the end of the day it will decrease the fertility of the soil. In ten sive tillage, monoculture cultivation, that is still planting one plant over and over again, completely clearing of crop residue. Now although for clearing of crop residue, sometimes some persons will advise, depending on if that particular, let's say that particular production you did, there's no what is it called, there's no issue with respect to disease, you can still use some of the leaves to replenish the soil, but you have to wait for it to break down properly, because if it did not break down properly, at the end of the day you will still have issues. Soil erosion and degradation can reduce your soil fertility. Unfavorable climate and weather conditions can also cause it. So thank you so much. Thank you. Um that is the end of the slide. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So is there any question? If you have any question, please you can simply unmute your mic and ask your question. Okay. Mr. Olalekan, please you can ask your question.
Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thanks for the wonderful class, sir. So I really learned some one or two things, sir. So my question is, when you are mentioning the causes of soil fertility, is waterlogged is not part of them?
You said?
Waterlogged. When the soil is waterlogged,
Hmm.
is it not going to affect the soil fertility?
Yes, it is going to affect it. It's not really going to affect the soil fertility that much. A soil can be fertile and still be waterlogged depending on you. You get?
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes,
Mm.
sir.
Ehen. Is there any other question?
No question. No question for now, sir.
Okay. So, Mr. Benjamin, you can unmute your mic and ask your question.
Good evening. Thank you, sir, for the teaching. My
Okay.
question is, I think you have answered one about the soil testing,
Okay.
but in a situation that you have a virgin land, you
Mm.
need to conduct a soil testing again.
Yes.
That's number one.
Okay.
Number two is regarding the waterlogged area.
Mm.
How, like, let's say, okay, you build a greenhouse structure in a waterlogged area now. So how
Mm.
do you combat the waterlogged area to be able to be suitable for greenhouse farming?
Okay, so you said your first question is if you have a veggie land, whether you need to do soil test. For if you are going into production, let's say in a large quantity, it is very advisable for you to do soil test so that you know what and what is available in the soil. Soil testing is more of like when, for example, you want to go and do testing. Maybe someone is sick and you want to find out what is happening to the person, then you go for blood test. Then you know if it is malaria, if it is typhoid, so you know the exact sickness you are dealing with. The same thing with soil testing. So you know with soil testing, you are going to know, this is what is available in the soil, this is what is not available, this is what I need to provide. So even if you have a virgin land, you are using a virgin land, you can still do soil testing. um Why you said number two with respect to waterlog, if there is waterlog in the place you build your greenhouse, that is why it is very important before you start how will I put it, before you do any build any structure like a greenhouse, you have to map out the area, you have to study the topography of the area. You have to know if that place is waterlogged or if there is erosion in that particular place or not. Because at the end of the day, you will be spending more. Now, when I say waterlogged, sometimes if you are over irrigating I can still name it as waterlog. So when I mention waterlog, I was referring to over irrigation. Let's say you are supposed to give your plant a particular amount of water, then you now over irrigate the plant, you now give the plant too much water. That is the waterlog I am referring to. But if it's the one for erosion, it is very advisable that you study the topography of your place very well. But if at the end of the day maybe you still end up in a waterlogged place, the advice is for you to dig a very high ridge. You will dig a ridge that is very high since it's a waterlogged place. You dig a very high ridge, then you apply compost, you apply manure to enrich the soil. Hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir, you did. And this, what I'm trying to say is this: before the person got the land, it was
Okay.
not waterlogged. So it
Okay.
was after 3 months. Yes, it's after 3 months rain fell. Then they now began to experience erosion. So I'm of opinion that instead of making ridges, can they use grow bag?
So the thing is, the thing is that land, that land is normally waterlogged. Maybe the person bought the land during the dry season. So it's usually like that. I've an experience like this before when me and somebody we went to get land. On reaching there, we got the land during the dry season, but during rain season, that place was flooded. In fact, the cassava we did there, the cassava at the end of the day, we harvested the cassava prematurely because of flood. So if you are using grow bag, the flood will still go to that place. And the waterlog is even it depends on the type of waterlog. If it is flood, I will advise you to okay, you what you do is you will plan your production cycle. Once you know rain will soon start falling, you don't plant anymore. You wait till it's close to dry season. When the land is dry, that is when you do production. But you don't do production during rainy season because you know there will be flood. And you know when there is flood, you will not be able to get maximum productivity from that land. Hope I've answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So is there any other question? Okay. So since in the absence of any other question, the presenter, our facilitator for today, she is having issues with respect to joining. That is why I just took up the class because I don't want us to waste our time. That is why I just say, okay, let me take up the class. But she will be joining us hopefully next week to continue the second part of this discussion. So this is just the first part of soil fertility. So next week she will dwell more on soil fertility and some other things that we need to know with respect to soil fertility and management. So you for those of us that are joining the class for the first time, you can go to our YouTube channel. You can go to our YouTube channel. I will be dropping the link now and you can watch our previous video. Even this class, I'm still going to post the video of this class, the recording of this class to our YouTube channel. So you can just go back and watch. So you can follow our series from the beginning and you learn what you need to learn. And if you have any question with respect to what we've discussed so far, even in the previous classes, you can easily ask your question and we are ready to answer you. You can ask the question via our YouTube, we will answer you from there, or you can bring it to class and we will still answer you. Hope is fine. If it's fine by you, please let me see some thumbs up. All right, all right. So, thank you very much for joining our class for today. Please, you can still tell your friends to join up the class for them to update their knowledge on good agronomy practices. So, the link for the next class we will still drop the link so you can help us to broadcast the class the broadcast our class so that other people will still enjoy what you are enjoying. Oh, so at this point from my end, I will say good night everyone and have a wonderful weekend. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night. Uju, good night.